Hey there, and welcome to the Sacred Style Podcast. This is a safe space for empaths, intuitives, healers, and coaches where we get real and go deep to explore the intersection of spirituality, entrepreneurship, personal branding, self-expression, and the fine art and journey of being human. I'm your host, Daniela West, artist, designer, brand coach, and astrologer, as well as founder of the Humanista Co, where we transform spiritual brands into spiritual magnets to amplify your purpose, impact, and abundance. So, in today's episode, we're going to have a really interesting conversation. We'll be speaking about our journeys as expats, discovering astrology and human design, and how spirituality and surrender have helped us along the way. So, to expand more on this, I'm bringing in a really special guest today. I'll be speaking with the lovely Diane Nnaemeka, a world traveler, astrologist, spiritualist, community builder, and founder of the Women in Business and Abundance community for women entrepreneurs. So, Diane, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I loved your own introduction, and then the way you introduced me was perfect. Yes.
Good. I was so glad to hear it. And really, I'm so excited to have you here today because as an expat, as a fellow entrepreneur, as a fellow astrologer, there's just so much to explore together and so many parallels in our lives, like uncanny parallels. So I'm just really excited to dive in with you. And where are you right now?
Currently, I'm in Hanoi in Vietnam.
So cool. So let's kick it off. Can you dive into the journey that led you to Vietnam? Let us know
Yeah.
the journey that brought you to the work you're doing today and where you currently are.
So I'm going to start with Vietnam because, or maybe just Southeast Asia in general. Growing up, I don't have any Asian roots. There are people growing up, you're into anime and maybe certain shows that have, it's just a lot of Asian influence. I never was into it. Maybe
Mhm.
besides Digimon, if you count that, and Digimon. I'm
I
dating
love
myself with
Digimon.
these terms. But so it's like, it's something where I didn't see it coming, but I think it is its own spiritual journey to even be somewhere in the world where you don't have any roots. Your family's not from here. You came here by yourself. I came to Thailand by myself and Vietnam by myself. So that's what it's been. It's been an amazing journey. And also, I think in this, the series of events have led to a lot of
Mhm.
reflection, and also just getting to a space where I'm more sure of myself than I probably have ever been in my life. Even though I don't know how things are gonna go, but it's that
Mhm.
sure, and I think I'm in the right frame of mind and the right space. So yeah, that's me in Vietnam so far. The journey.
Beautiful. It's so interesting. I can relate so much because I'm currently in Spain right now. It's actually my fifth time living in Spain over the last 10 years. I've sort of been back and forth between Spain and the US, and it was similar for me where I don't have any family in Spain. I don't have any ancestral roots that I know of in Spain. I just felt called. I don't know if it was a deeper soul subconscious level, but since I was about 20 years old, I just really instinctively felt called to come over here and experience life and get immersed. Was it kind of similar for you, or that was the feeling that brought you to Vietnam?
So Vietnam, it started off with me having a border run. When you live in
Mm,
Thailand, or I guess certain, I don't know if it's only Asian countries, I'm not sure, but
mm,
you have an allotted amount of time you can stay if you don't have a longer term visa. And then you have
mhm,
to either go do a border run as go to a country by car, for example, like a same day thing and come back, or you can fly out. And at
mm,
that time, last year, the weather in Chiang Mai was it was bad because it was smoky season. So I'm like, if I don't have a longer term visa at the moment and the weather's not great, let's just try Vietnam. I've never been there. And that's
mhm,
what led me here. And the first city I was in was Da Nang. And wow. I've never lived near the beach in my whole life. Learned
Mhm.
so much about living from water. I was always moisturized. No one talks about that. Always moisturized by that's seawater. And then
Mhm.
coming to Hanoi, it's a different city. It's very busy, it's bustling. The city's alive. It's a sexy-ish vibe to it. I don't know. When I see people
Mhm.
going out at night, everyone's like, dressed up. We have places to go, things to do, people to see.
Yeah.
It's a different flavor, and I have lived different lives in this year. Yes.
Different lives. Oh, that's super interesting. In this region of the world, do you feel that you've actually lived different lives even in the same city?
So the first city I was in the south. It's like near the sea, Da Nang. And then Hanoi
Mm.
is more towards the north. And I think because it's completely different cities, but then also just in a different frame of mind, the whole process has been even taking me from what I used to do in work, which was ESL teaching. I used to do that way more full time, but it's
Mhm.
at this point in my life, it is just not really what I do anymore. And it's a
Mhm.
shift. So I look at it
Yes.
as two different places I have had such a huge shift, and also the growth. What's important to you in your life? I actually have to say it may not be so much about the city as much as the period of time I'm in my life,
Mhm.
but in this time it's just been a process. It's just been ongoing and it keeps going. The changes I've had changed so much. I had no choice, it feels so.
Oh my gosh, I completely understand. I really do. And I don't know if I'm wondering if the shifts can be accelerated through travel, if that makes sense. Like
Hmm.
in shifting your environment, I wonder if you've experienced that shifts things internally more for you rather than just staying in the one place. Has that been a theme for you?
I do think so. I think the movement, the
Mhm.
years I was in Thailand, I got to a point where COVID was part of it, but I hadn't been on a plane in a few years. And the first trip
Yeah.
I took was to Cambodia for another border run at that time. And I
Mhm.
was scared. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting on a plane. I haven't traveled in a while. But now, the past year, with all the crazy events, traveling is nothing. You're going to travel, you're going to get to where you need to go. If you don't have everything, you will figure it out, and also just
Mm,
knowing the base things you need to do when you get there. So it's alleviated a lot of fear because I
yeah.
think it's made me more aware of the fact that what control? There is no control. So like, you might as well just enjoy where you're at.
I love that mindset. That's one of the things I love most about travel is like, okay, for me, for example, I've probably moved 20, 25 times in the last decade, a lot of moving. And every time, every move comes with its challenges. But I think the best part about it is it really builds this inner strength and this inner resilience and almost this, for me, it's been kind of this daredevil energy of thinking I may not have every single thing figured out about this move or about this trip. I may not have an entire A to Z to-do list of how I'm going to do this, but I have the vision in mind. I know where I want to be, I know where I'm going, and I trust myself enough to take that first step, to dive into the unknown, to let the other steps unfold. Has that been your experience as well?
Yes, we talked about it the other day. I guess this was more of the astrological part of it. The moon shining a path, and you can't see, and you're just going off of faith. It's just
Yeah.
faith. You literally cannot see the path. There's nothing to see. It is dark.
Yeah. It is scary in the dark.
But it's been really, I think things do, they bring these gifts out of you, like gift of resilience,
Mm.
knowing that even if things get a little crazy, you can stand still and look around you and be like, this is just a cycle. It's not going to last forever. And then when you come
Mhm.
out of it, because something I realized, and this particular part is about astrology, it's made me think of Saturn a lot. Made me think of the
Mm.
lessons learned with
Mhm.
Saturn, but how even if it's tough, you don't have to go through it again. It's your choice. If you want to stay in the cycles and the loops of certain things, I feel like the universe is like you're more than welcome to, but that's your own version of suffering. But when you learn,
Mhm.
you don't have to do it again. It's just done.
Oh my God. I feel like you are summing up More specifically, the last 6 months of my life. I've been thinking a lot about that, and I want to touch more on the big shift that you mentioned earlier, because I've been going through a really similar shift in my life where I started off also as an English teacher. That's what brought me to Spain originally. And 15 years later, after my first experience as an ESL teacher, I came back to the same country to do that same experience, but in a different city. And what I found was a huge internal shift for myself, where there were just so many things about that role or that environment I just couldn't tolerate anymore. For me, it just felt like nothing was clicking, nothing was flowing. I knew I was feeling called to a different line of work or a different way of impacting people, a different way of showing up in spaces. And I love that you mentioned Saturn, because when you say that, I think about karma, the karmic lessons that our soul comes into this world designed to learn. Those biggest challenges that are so frustrating and awful to go through sometimes, incredibly challenging, but it's almost like our soul chose to go through these very specific lessons so that we could choose to see them from a new perspective and finally break away from them so we stop repeating these karmic patterns. Has that been your experience when you talk about Saturn and the shift you've been going through?
Yes. I like first I want to touch on you with like the how will I say it? Or touch on. Sorry. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting.
So many
But
interesting things, yeah.
the like, coming to Spain and 15 years ago was one experience, and now it's a
Yeah.
different experience because this reminds me of a time in Thailand where I wasn't teaching in person anymore, but I was burnt out from teaching online. You're in
Mm.
person, you go online, you think like, oh, it's better. I was in 5 different companies at one time trying to fill in my schedule. This one doesn't get paid. This one doesn't pay that much, but it will work for now. And then this one pays the most, but they can't give you that many hours. And it was just a mess. It was
Mm.
really a mess.
Yeah.
So there was a moment I remember thinking, it was a very clear thought. I was like, maybe teaching isn't for me anymore. What am I going to do if I'm not going to teach? What's next? And then I had a thought right after. And sometimes this happens, and I'm not really sure what this other voice is because it came in really quickly. But it
Mm.
was like, you're going to find out what's due. You're going to enjoy yourself. You're going to have fun. If this doesn't work, there was something I heard, but it also gave me the impression that it's like, it's not really about what you're doing per se, what you're learning, but also being in aligned spaces. And you're not in control of how long something's going to last. English teaching, it has a certain income level, unless if you're
Mhm.
doing things like your own business. So if you want to do other things in your life, that won't be able to sustain you anymore. Sometimes if you're in the physical classroom, you have a lot of students, that takes a toll on your body after some years, even mentally. It's still a 9 to 5 thing. If you find out in time 9 to 5 is not your thing, it's not going to
Mhm.
work anymore. But that's really life. Like things happen and it just doesn't work anymore. So that's why you feel burnt out, you feel sad, you feel upset, you just feel so out of it. So
Yeah.
that was part of it for me. That was part of it
Mm.
for me. The shift was realizing that I have options, even if it doesn't look like it. Because when you're doing business, so many things of business are so subtle. It's not really obvious. You're just in this wave figuring things out, but
Yeah.
you have options. Even if you don't want a 9 to 5 job, you can offer your services. It just doesn't look like you can, but that's what it is. Like that's a reminder of faith. So that was a big part of the identity shift to have options, and I have to just step out on faith because I want better things for my life. I want to like what I'm doing. If I'm going to work, I should like what I'm working in. I should like it a lot. So that was the
Yes.
shift.
Oh, yes. I love that. If we're spending the majority of our time and energy doing some type of work to support ourselves, why not enjoy that work? Why not actually choose something we enjoy doing and commit more to that path instead of buying into the belief that Work is
Yeah.
work, and maybe you're miserable, but just stick with it because at least it pays the bills, right?
That's yes.
I know. It is. It really is. That's kind of the conclusion I reached after giving English teaching one last shot. So many years later, it was sort of my way of coming back to Spain. I wanted to experience that environment again and that lifestyle. And English was teaching was the quickest way to drop in again. But it didn't take me long to realize that it just wasn't aligned for me anymore. And I felt like a completely different person trying to do
Yeah.
that job again. It was like I almost had to drop into a past version of me to be reminded of how far I've come, how much I've evolved the last 15 years. What are my priorities now? What values have shifted? Where is my focus? And I realized I had put myself in a container and in a role that was never going to allow me to grow in according to my higher vision that I had very
Yeah.
clear in my mind even then. And it was hard though. It was knowing all of that and feeling all of that. I felt so much chaos in my body, knowing how misaligned it felt. And I still really struggled to let go.
Yeah.
I really struggled to surrender and leave that behind and dive into the unknown and leave the income behind, even though it wasn't a lot of income. But
Yeah.
it wasn't a lot. I was like, this is peanuts. I'm barely paying my rent with this, but it's
Yeah.
stable and it's the perception of that certainty that was so hard for me to leave behind. Have you experienced anything like that with the shift, that letting go and releasing and surrendering into the unknown?
Yeah, letting go is hard. There's an astrologer and mycologist that I followed on TikTok. I'm not always on
Mm,
TikTok that much recently, but she said something along the lines of humans don't like change. That's one of the things,
mhm.
humans don't like change. And I
Yeah.
just read, and I was like, why is she so right all the time? Everything she says, I resonate with it. She's so smart. Why? This particular
Yeah.
thing, I don't want it to be true, but it's so true. And I want to say congratulations to you, even with the chaos of your journey, for just surrendering and trying, because I think that is true about humans. And we stay in these things that just, there's nothing that's going to give us any more. But I don't think we are, I don't know if it's trained or socialized. I don't know what the word is, but I don't think we in our brains look at life that way. You can look
Mm,
at certain things, it's supposed to last your whole life, and that's not true. You move through
mhm,
friends, relationships, interests, jobs is no different. So in
mhm.
knowing that about the shift and then the letting go was hard. And also because it was just last year, I was in a position where it was $10 an hour. And I was just like, ooh.
Does it?
And I was still suffering. The money was coming. I'm laughing because it was so ridiculous. The money was just literally the slowest trickle. I used a little bit of
Mm,
it. I paid my rent,
mhm,
finished. So this is
mm.
not life. Like we literally, I was like, I might as well just say F it all and see what happens and offer my services because at least I'm in charge of my prices. What is this?
True. Is that what ended up happening? How did you transition into your astrology work and community building from that place?
That is pretty much what happened. I
Yeah.
realized that business, like people have different businesses, but I think you do what you're good at. You do what community building is really easy for me because it's
Mhm,
just a big part of it is just being in contact with people a lot, but you start
mhm.
getting more strategic about it because you don't want to be on Facebook the whole day talking to people. So you have your
Yeah.
strategy and or you build your strategies. And then with astrology, I think I mentioned it that I took a bus from Da Nang to Hanoi, and I had about
Mm.
$40 to my name. And then there was a typhoon that hit 2 days after I came to this city.
Wow. We talk about timing. What?
Ridiculous. I was in that point because in Da Nang the weather was quite mild, so I wasn't even checking the weather a lot in general. And I just
Mhm.
happened to and it said there was a typhoon, and I was like, "You are joking." And in the morning, I was like, "You guys are not, you're not serious, Hanoi." And then the morning came, and then the wind started, and I was like, "I don't have much food on me. I'm just gonna buy chips. I just got a lot of chips and noodles." And I was like, "I didn't prepare for this
No, nobody prepared you for that. That is wild.
at all." And then that it was a Saturday. Oh, I remember the day. It was Saturday, September 7th, 2024. And then that evening, I was like, well, the electricity is still on. The winds are out, like there were a lot. It was so quiet outside. You heard nothing but the winds. And I was like, I think I'm just gonna start like offering services. Why not? I'm not doing anything else. And that was really how it
Wow, you reached this point of like, you know what? Forget, like, F it. I've got nothing to lose. I got nothing to lose. I might as well just try.
nothing to lose. I started talking to people on Reddit, offered a few people my services, and then it just like went there. Like you talk to people, they either want a reading or they don't, or they're interested,
Mhm.
something like that. And it's always this thing in business. You're just always in some kind of communication with people, and I'm just getting used to that. So that's
Mhm.
how it started.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I want to dive into our astrology a little bit since we're talking about astrology. I always think it's fun to dissect the big three a little bit. So, what are your big three?
Okay, so a Capricorn sun and a Libra moon. No, Libra sun. Wait, what did I say? Capricorn ascendant.
Right, let's start over.
Capricorn sun. I'm a Capricorn ascendant,
Okay.
a sun, and a Pisces moon. Okay. Yes.
Oh, wait, Libra sun, Pisces moon, Capricorn rising. Yeah,
Yes.
Libra sun. Ooh, Libra sun. So you must love beauty. You must love balance and harmony, I'm
I
guessing.
try to balance.
Yeah. I can see that being a little tricky. You've got earth, air, and water all kind of
Yeah.
running the show in your personalities. That's interesting.
But
Huh.
think with Capricorn and Libra, because they're both like cardinal signs, and like start off like the seasons, and they say it's like boss energy. Whether
Yeah.
it's boss or not, I will say I honestly do think it gives me a kind of focus because like I'm serious and intentional about what I'm doing. I want my life to be better.
Mm.
I want to support people. I want to be
Mhm.
supported and make good money because
Yeah,
why
yeah.
not?
That's got to be your Capricorn rising then. Definitely. It gives you like that sense of responsibility and a little bit more seriousness, but makes you very trustworthy and very good with making money. I mean, be natural to you.
It's getting better. It has not been
Yeah.
natural to. They took a $10 an hour job last year.
Right. Right. Understand. Yeah. Yeah.
What
Exciting. I
about your?
mean, so I'm in Aries sun, Leo moon, and Aquarius rising.
Ooh, Aquarius rising. Okay.
Aquarius.
My head. Are you really into like I thought revolutions. First thing I thought was like
Yes.
revolution. And then like the
The
phenomenal
mhm.
groups, movements.
Mhm.
Aquarius is like power, the people energy, like
Yeah,
the best for the
collective. Yeah, it's interesting. The more I've learned about astrology over the years, I realized how much my Aquarius rising energy has influenced my overall. Even the name, the Humanista Co, is very much about this revolution of humanizing brands, humanizing collectives, humanizing
yeah.
our personal expression in the way that we show up as our truest selves. It's really,
Yeah.
for me, I created this as a movement to inspire and empower people to be the truest version of themselves, to be, who are born to be by taking off all the masks of and the things that we hide behind that block us from expressing who we truly are. So I
Wow. That is beautiful. And the whole time you were saying that, I was like, how on point is that? Like, you make this up. Like, you can't.
Isn't that wild? I had no idea that Aquarius energy, me impacting, it is the vision. It is the vision for this brand in 2018, many ago now. I had no idea that was in any way related to Aquarius energy of starting movements, something or on the collective and society as a whole. Um, Creating transformations, but not in a conventional way, rebellious. Um,
Yes. It's your time. Pluto's in Aquarius. This is your time.
Thanks, girl. Yeah, it's an exciting time. I know for many it is also a very scary time because we're seeing so much chaos and so much dismantling of systems, that I'm so comfortable with. But I'm wondering if even, Libra placement, if you've kind of high on this sense of like equality, balance within the scale, the global scale. I'm curious what your perspective is on the age of Aquarius right now.
I have just been thinking, like, the first things, there were two things I saw on TikTok. First, I saw like how last time this was going on, it was like the War of 1789. And like in the period, there was just a lot of crazy stuff going on in different parts of the world. And then
Yeah.
also, it was another TikToker, they brought up the thing, what the name? Oh, Assassin Bay, like with the United Healthcare. How do I say this? He unalived the United Healthcare CEO, but it was like that's a sign of the times because the
Mhm.
healthcare system is horrible in the US. And
Yeah.
with happening, it's like a sign like, hey, people are coming back, we're taking our rights, like we're being
Mhm.
treated well. We
Mhm.
need healthcare. We need universal healthcare. That should not be denied to people. That's
Mhm.
ridiculous. And
Yeah.
the TikToker was saying like that's a good sign of the times. Like get with it, or you're gonna have issues if you're not for the people. And I was like, right on.
Yeah. Yeah. Really good insight. Yeah. It's really restoring balance and equality to very, very societal structures that have been, yes, holding things up, but not from a stable foundation when it's from that place of imbalance. So for me, I am excited in a way to see how the world is going to continue shifting and in such a rapid way. Since Aquarius is the air sign, I feel it's a very fast aerial sort of perspective and movement as society, like fast are happening every day,
Yeah.
even with technology as well. It's been really interesting
There's
to
some
observe.
weird things with AI. I've seen some weird things with robots. Do you
Yeah.
remember that movie, I, Robot?
I remember who was in that. I definitely remember the title. Who
I
was in that?
feel Will Smith, but I'm
Will
not a
Smith.
thousand sure.
I was thinking Will Smith. Yeah. Yeah.
There's another I'm thinking of, I Am Legend, but originally I'm
Oh,
the robot. But in the robots were over, and that movie was like 20 years ago. I still
yeah.
remember how freaked out I was, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, robots!" And now it's
Yeah.
happening. And I'm like,
I know, like
"Oh,
this. I was like, yes, this is hypothetical, but like this is the headed, even back then, I could feel it. I was like, we need to be discerning and, keep our this technological advancement because that's what I mean about balance, you could to the wall with these technological changes and evolution. I mean, we're pretty in what we can create with technology, but I think it's so important to bring a sense of balance, to bring a sense of humanity to technology, to make sure we don't lose that the soul essence, of who we are human beings showing up through technology and interacting. Yeah. So
like
yeah.
technology ruling our lives. Like it's not like that robots do everything. Like no, we're still here."
Yes, yes, it's important to still maintain some autonomy, in technology is advancing. I think especially as business owners, this actually leads into the concept of human design, which I so interesting. I know we were both interested in it. Um, I am curious, what's your experience been with human design in terms of how you operate or what clarity it given you into your life?
It is interesting because it reminds me of how I do astrology readings, and something I saw is that like one part of chart may say one thing and this part will say another thing. but it's like it's saying a thing just from different angles. And that's how human design looks to me. Because they're just taken from astrology and then human design. And I'm like, that's saying the same thing. Like in both
Mhm.
systems, it's like a theme of groups. It's a theme of being. I'm very like corrective focused. Makes any sense? Like I like fixing things. I like things being corrected, and I see it like in
Mm.
both being correct. Something else that I saw was it Mars? I don't remember exactly what it is right now. But then also even in the profile, like the 2-4, I was like looking at my chart and I was like, oh, maybe that explains the moon in Pisces a little bit, or oh,
Mhm.
maybe this in this house, like the group thing a little bit. And I've just been bringing it together and then looking at my lived experiences. And I'm like, yeah, I
Wow.
just to focus on this and just like stay in this lane. Like this has been the whole time. But of course, you don't always see these things because sometimes you're just in life and you're just going and is making sense because you're not even looking at your life. You're just doing what people tell you to do. And it is unfortunate,
Oh my
honestly.
gosh. Yes, Diane. I could talk about this. I could talk about this all day long. I'm so excited when you talk about it because I've been coming to the same realizations. Studying the science of differentiation, a system us understand what makes us different from everybody else. Pairing
Yeah.
that with astrology, which basically helps you uncover the same thing, just from a more cosmic spiritual perspective. They're both inner blueprints. They're literally both tools and systems that we can understand to illuminate how we're naturally designed to be in this world, like our purpose, the
Yeah.
role to take, the specific strategy in which we interact with others that's going to lead to the best results. Things like have found so interesting, and I've started working with clients, to dissect both systems, both charts, to really help people illuminate like the truth of who they are, which I think is so incredibly powerful. Because, like you said, if you don't understand who you are on a soul level, on a innate level, if you don't understand that blueprint, how you're designed to operate, it's so easy to get conditioned from all these other things outside of us. It's so easy to get lost in the trap of comparison, like,
Yeah.
oh, business owner built it this way. Follow my 10
Yeah.
steps to success and you'll have you can replicate the same results. You know what I mean? Like I see her laughing. Like, have you seen this? I see this every day in the online space and I'm sick of it.
Or you can make 10K in 10 days if
Uh-huh.
you follow these exact steps. And
Uh-huh.
I'm like, just stop. Because I'm
Yeah.
not saying you're per se, but whatever you're doing may not work for me. Also, on top of that, you may have just be doing something where generating a lot of money is easy. You could be trading. People
Mhm.
like business is a lot of smoke and mirrors. Like people will
Mhm.
have blanket statements when no one's really saying if they actually got there, how they got there. But they're using
Mhm.
that to win. You get reeled in. It's not what you think. And in
Yeah.
my mind, that's not fair. And, if you built something from scratch and you don't know how to do it and you haven't achieved this specific thing you're talking about, just don't talk about it. Just do
Mhm.
what you actually know how to do. Like people are
Mhm.
getting every day. People are
Yeah.
getting lied to every day and people are confused every day. And then it makes them feel
Mhm.
like they're less than when you just need to like go take a walk outside actually and just stop like paying attention to all this because it's just constant
Mhm.
like did a lot.
It is a lot. And that's such an point about deception, especially in the online space. I think, yes, there's a lot of deception out there, but also some of it, I do believe it's unintentional because
Mm,
say someone actually did, these 10 steps that unlocked 10K months for them. But why it worked for them was because they were following their innate blueprint and strategy, whether they were conscious of it or not. That's really what I've been observing. Like, let's say in design, for example, you discover your type is a projector. right? Which is that's my, I mean, that's the know best. So, you know, projectors were meant to be guides and leaders. We're meant to share our unique perspective instead of being extremely productive and super action oriented and doing a lot of tasks. We're meant to have a very focused energy to guide people to results. So a projector's way of operating is going to be so different from, what was your type? I think you told me generator?
A manifesting generator.
Manifesting. You have a completely different way of operating. You have access to like unlimited natural energy. You're gonna impact people in a different way than a projector or a different type. So your way of building your success is gonna look very different from that of a projector, for example. So you're gonna have a totally different, like follow my tens to success, you know, what worked for you, it's not gonna work for someone who has a different type, a different astrological blueprint. Maybe someone has totally different placements in their birth chart from you. Your
Yeah.
strategies might not be effective for someone who's built very differently. And I think that's where a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs teaching strategies, I think this is where it's really falling short because what works for, you know, Jane Doe work for someone who's designed opposite from Jane
Yeah.
Doe. And if that tries to follow Jane Doe's method, there's gonna be friction. There's gonna be resistance. It's gonna feel cringy because it's not natural.
Yeah. I have a story about that in the very
Oh.
beginning when I was starting out in my head. And actually, this was not last year. This was because there was a time I was just giving readings. There's a time I was
Mhm.
giving readings, and then last year I started more on the business part a little bit more. So when I started
Mm.
more like actually like pushing out more, I thought if you just like tell people about what you do, then like obviously that's that's equal clients. I was like, yeah, if I just tell them I give astrology readings, they're totally gonna pay for like this reading or package. And I
Yeah.
was like, I did that enough to where I was like, wow, this isn't working.
Oh, yeah.
This is not me. This might work for
Mm.
someone else, but this is not this is me. And it was a really big eye opener. So I have to say, like you saying that maybe some people they're teaching, even if it doesn't work for everyone, it's unintentional. That I like I thought that makes a lot
Mm.
of sense because
Mhm.
we're literally not the same. And it kind of makes me laugh because since we're not all the same, there is no one blueprint.
Exactly, exactly. Yes. Yes, that's an example though. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I mean, it's many times, you know, there've been invested in, there's been mentors that I've tried to follow their strategy. I even caught myself because unintentionally I started mimicking like a mentor I admired, or I started speaking like them, or even started designing, you know, in this as someone I admired, and I didn't mean to. It was very subconscious. That's because I know what my inner blueprint was yet. I didn't have that clear understanding. So it was a very subconscious way of absorbing other people's energy and their ways of doing things, and so almost their identity in a sense,
Yeah.
because I didn't have a clear sense of identity at that time.
Yeah, business is not like as you go on, like your personal identity, whether you want to call it branding or whatever, it gets stronger and you just feel better, more aligned. And that I'm actually really gonna think about that after our call. Like, it's not if this or that is possible. It's just more like your road to get there is gonna be different. And I guess if
Mhm.
things take time, it's like discovering what it is. And even if that's something you want to do, like not as an empire, that's a lot
Mhm.
of responsibility, a lot of
Mm.
work, a lot of
Mhm.
money, a lot of people working under you. That is literally not for everybody. And that's fine. There's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with that. So I'm gonna
100%.
be thinking about this. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. It's a really good point, you know, and people's, I mean, you know, as an astrologer, like people's north nodes, path to purpose, you know, their destiny is going to be very different for many different people. We have many very different destinies and purposes, roles that we came here to embody, and not everyone's here to be a big boss CEO or, 8-figure business owner, and it's completely okay. Yeah, I think that's what I love so much about astrology and human design, honestly. It's really like your inner permission slip to be who you came here to be naturally, you know?
Yeah. You in it. Like you don't have to like
Yeah,
stress yourself out trying to make work this and this way. Like just relax. Just
yeah,
do like for you. And of course, even though I say relax, like I know like fear and like doubt are still there and there's no issue with it. Like there's no
mhm.
issue with the fact that it exists, but like you can relax and just know that like what is in your blueprint and then what you're doing are in alignment and just feel natural in it. Like it's a relief.
Yes, I'm literally breathing a sigh of relief as you say that. It's like, oh, thank God, I can literally just do what's natural to me. I don't have to be like anyone else, talk like anyone else. I can just be me and I can really find my definition of success following
Yes,
my unique path. Yeah.
yes. Well, I want to ask before I forget, I wanted
Oh,
to ask human design in your astrology chart, like what are the, I guess, the overlaps, the
yeah.
similarities? Like what?
That's a good question. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that as well. I mean, knowing that I'm a designed to guide others, I can find overlap there with, let's say, my sun in Aries, which also leans towards natural leadership, natural, being a, but it's very, and I think what's coming to mind most, I have 4 placements in Capricorn in the 11th house, the house of spirit, of astrology, the house of groups, the house of community. So I'm finding that it's almost like my inner blueprint is telling me you're meant to lead and guide a spiritual community.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when this, I was like,
Yeah.
oh. And then about human design has been really helpful to understand, but how? The how part. I execute that. I learned in my profile that I am a 4/6, which means with the 4 line. Do we share the 4 line in common? I think.
Yeah, we do.
The 4, yeah, so it means we're natural networkers. We're natural love people, which I also see that very related to the community piece in my birth chart. We love people, we love community, we love connecting. Our business are actually going to come through our network. So for me, learning about that, like I understand though I'm here to do or build through astrology, and human design is helping me understand how I'm meant to go out in the real world and build it and leverage my network, or how to market it, how to interact with people, without burning myself out. I'm not meant to be a hustler.
Whoop, whoop.
How
I love
about
these
you?
realizations.
Yeah, how about you? Have you noticed some key overlap with your charts?
The big thing, 'cause I touched on it a little bit earlier, but the big thing that's like coming together is networking thing. Because I'm literally remembering how it's happened recently. I
Mm,
connected with a woman in a group, and we were talking about skincare. And
mhm.
then afterwards, somehow we started talking about astrology, and I mentioned that I do card readings also. And then she bought a card reading. And then
Oh,
a recent friend I've made, like we did not meet originally. It was another woman connecting us. Then we became friends. And now she's buying an astrology reading. And I'm like, I should just make friends. Maybe that should be my strategy. Just befriend people.
you are a four in human design. That is the strategy. You are meant to just make friends and connections.
It's so funny though,
That's
because it was like, I wasn't do at all. I didn't even expect it to happen. But okay, universe. Yeah,
yeah,
make
I love that. I love that. Ah, Diane, oh my gosh, I could literally talk to you for hours and hours, and I we'll have to do a part 2, honestly. I think we'll have to be continued, kind of, and Diane. I think that would be fun.
friends.
Yeah. Yes, I love it. Oh my goodness. Well, where can people find you? Where can they learn about your amazing services, your community?
Yeah. So first, I have my Facebook group, women in business and abundance. You can just to join inside the group. It's basically networking, then just asking, connecting questions, because my point in having a group is for us to connect. If you're connecting in the comments, connect in the DMs, maybe people do summits, podcasts, master classes, the different things you have going on, or inviting people to come and watch what you're doing, something like that. So that's what the group is for. Um, and then I just my main profile page, Diane Nnaemeka, where I just have updates about my business and life in general. And then my website has my astrology services, and that will be updated soon-ish because yeah, my website needs to be updated.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I have loved
You.
every second of this conversation. Yes.
This is great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks to everybody tuning in, whether you're watching or listening to this episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Sacred Style podcast. And I will catch you next time. Bye. Subscribe, like, and comment. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you found this video helpful. If you'd like to take your brand to the next level, check out my brand coaching services, as well as astrology-inspired collection of high-end, high-vibe Squarespace website templates, designed especially for spiritual entrepreneurs to help you create a premium level brand at a fraction of the cost. And exclusive for our YouTube viewers, save 10% at checkout when you use the code YouTube10. All links are in the description below. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next video.